Welcome to the Harrison City Council meeting for August 15th, 2023. If you'd please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you please remain standing, I'd like to invite Pastor Jim Metcalf with New Beginnings Worship to provide the invocation this evening.
All right, let us pray. Father, we would ask today that you would restore our great nation, Lord, to our foundation. Lord, and we come before you humbly today. Lord, I thank you for your grace and your mercy extended to us. We thank you for the many blessings that you have given us. We ask that you would forgive us as a nation and as a people for our failures and our sin, and draw us into your presence and turn our hearts towards you. We ask today that you would bless and comfort our nation and communities during the difficult times and those that we're about to face. Give us wisdom and grace to endure the coming challenges. We ask you to protect our police, firemen, and our first responders and their families. We would ask today that you would protect our servicemen and women, provide for their families and for your abundance. Lord, that you would comfort them in their times of need. Lord, we'd ask tonight that you would bless this council and our community leaders. Give them wisdom to guide and to bless all who live within our city and our community. Bless the leaders of our nations and our family. Bless our neighbors. Lord, that we would always live together in peace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Egner.
Here.
Mr. Grubbs.
Here.
Mr. Samuels.
Here.
Ms. Dole.
Here.
Mr. Maines.
Here.
Mrs. Wilson.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that Jean had an emergency procedure done at the VA hospital this afternoon about 4 o'clock, and I would move that we excuse her from the meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Wilson.
Yay.
Egner.
Yeah.
Grubbs.
Yay.
Samuels.
Yay.
Dole.
Yay.
Maines.
Yay.
We wish her a speedy recovery. First item this evening is approval of the council meeting minutes for August 1st and an executive summary from the same evening.
So move. Second.
Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Egner.
Yay.
Grubbs.
Yay.
Samuels.
Yay.
Dole.
Yay.
Maines.
Yay.
Wilson.
Yay.
Under invited guests and visitors, our first guest is the Greater Harrison Chamber of Commerce. Do we have a representative present this evening? Okay. There was a conflict with both the member of the month and the ability to get the president or another member of the chamber here. Frankenstein's Nursery is the member of the month this month. I don't know a whole lot about them. I know that they have an event coming up, and it's this evening. That's why they had the conflict. Could not be here, but they're new to the community. Give them your support. I'm sure that they'd be willing to help you with your nursery needs. Thank you. Next, we have the VFW has a presentation.
Want to take a picture, Bill? How about if I take a picture?
Got the lens cover off?
Take the lens cover off.
Mayor, on behalf of the VFW in Harrison, Ohio, we'd like to donate $1,500 to the Mayor's Fund.
Yeah, the next item on our agenda is a presentation from the American Legion.
Well, we've had a pretty successful month, Mr. Mayor, and at this time, the American Legion Jaeger Benson Post 199 would like to donate $5,000 to the Harrison Mayor's Fund.
That picture is better when Jean's in it.
That wasn't funny.
You heard that one, didn't you?
Gene takes a better picture. Thanks.
So next, we have the Harrison Branch Library for an update.
Hi, hello. None of you who know me are surprised that I did not make it to a schedule, but that's fine. I show up where I need to be, and I'm happy to be here. If you don't know me, my name is Caitlin. I work at the Harrison branch of the public library. I am essentially the second in charge. My title is Branch Supervisor Youth Services, which means I'm in charge of the youth stuff, and sometimes the library, depending on what's going on. We did just get a new manager at our library at the beginning of May. So Kate has been here since then, and she's been an awesome addition to our community. But tonight, the addition to our staff that I want to talk about has made our summer fantastic, and she's about to make our fall fantastic too. At the end of May, we got a new staff member named Ava, and she is our homework help and enrichment assistant. She got to start the day before Discover Summer started at the library. So all of those kids coming in for free books to talk about that lady with the blue hair who comes to my school and a mouse and an elephant and escaped lab animals. All of that was handled by Ava, who had a wheel that the kids could spin to do a challenge and get a prize every day. She had a small conversation check-in with kids, and by the end of summer, those kids were running in straight to her table to spin that wheel and tell her all about all of the cool stuff that they had done since the last time they saw her. Now that Discover Summer is over, the Harrison branch takes a little bit of a breather. In August, we catch our breath for school to start 2 weeks later. So Ava is actually on vacation this week. More power to her, she deserves it. And when she comes back, she will start her fall hours as our homework help person. So starting next week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at the Harrison Library, we will have someone to tutor and do homework help for free for kids from K to 8th grade. It doesn't matter if they have actual homework assigned, if they just want to come work on their reading with her, she's a great listening ear. If they need to work on their social skills, she's a great conversationalist. She has a way about her that draws people out of their shell. I know because I am, believe it or not, an introvert, and I do not mind when she starts talking to me. I don't dread that. Like, oh, Ava's gonna ask some nice questions. I can handle this. So, spread the word. We started this at the Harrison branch just a couple years ago, year and a half maybe, and it's been slow going because that's not necessarily a busy time at the library in the evenings after school. Ava is gonna be here from 4 to 8 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays and 2 to 6 on Fridays. So she's got that nice after school time. Hopefully that's a big enough window. You don't have to schedule times. It's all drop in and first come, first serve, but we have not had a huge crowd yet, so your kiddo's gonna get individual attention. So I do have a poster. I'm gonna leave it when I leave so that people can take pictures if you want. There will be posters at the library as well, and this should be on our branch calendar. And there's a homework help section of our website that tells which branches have it and what their hours are. In addition, the library also offers homework help online, which is also free access with your library cards, and that's Monday through Sunday. So every day of the week from 2 until 11 p.m., and that's online help with a real person, like video or chat, depending on what subject it is. Some of those matter more. And that goes all the way up through college classes. So we have these resources and we would love to spread the word. So if there is anything we can do, let us help you. Our staff is chomping at the bit, let me tell you. So in addition, let's see. I wanted to remind everybody this is kind of also a back to school thing. The library offers 20 free copies or print jobs, not print jobs, pages, every single day to everyone. So use that. Spread the word. We've had people who, homeschoolers have planned their entire curriculum, and by golly, they will send us 20 pages worth to print every day. I've told people, I was like, I have no idea how you remember to do all of this. Like, that's a schedule to keep up with, but it's an excellent resource for our community. Let's see, we are hiring a couple positions right now. We are hiring a part-time library customer associate, LCA we call them. So that's a 20-hour-a-week position, and we're also hiring a shelver position. That used to just be students, but now anybody can apply to be a shelver. So if you know anybody who is looking for a part-time job, our shelver or LCA positions, we would love to have some more applications. And then that unfortunately brings me to news that nobody is expecting or wanting. But my last day is going to be October 28th. I know, I'm so sorry, but I need a mental break. And I want to tell the community in a thoughtful way that I'm not leaving the library because I hate it or because they have treated me horribly. I don't want anybody to get that idea. I love the library, and I want to be able to come back in the future. So I would rather take a step back, get a break on my own terms rather than hit a wall. So I still live here in Harrison. I'm on the Harrison Recreation Commission. You're not going to be free of me anytime soon. I will chat and announce pretty much whatever you want me to. And I'm going to stay on as a substitute for the library system. So it's possible you'll still see me after October here at the branch, but it'll be in less of a in-charge capacity and more of a filling-in capacity. So you have 2.5 months. I'll answer any questions you have of me after, or anytime you want to ask them. I know I have a lot of faces here that work with us at the library, so I appreciate your ears and your time for listening to me for as long as you guys have. I don't know if I'll be back. It kind of depends on staffing, if I get to address you guys or not again before I go. I don't mind coming here, so maybe I will. But yeah, I have loved doing this. And the one that's on all of the teachers' minds, my class visits typically take place in November. We're moving them to October so that I can say goodbye to the kids and talk to them, because that would ruin me as a kid, So, okay.
Our next guest, got a hard act to follow, Mark, is Mark Grattison with Oakland Hills. They have a new conceptual plan that they're going to provide an informal presentation of.
All right. Good evening. And as the mayor said, that is a very hard act to follow. So, Mayor, members of council, thank you very much for having me. Mark Grattison, Grattison Land Development, here to talk about Oakland Hills with you. We were here last week with the Plan Commission and did a similar introduction. So very similar slideshow as what we showed them. I gave everybody a copy of the slideshow, just that way if you want to make notes on the pages as we go. There's also a very small copy, on the PUD document. We will make sure that Joette has that accurate and she can maybe email it out to you so it's in larger text format. And I wasn't going to dive so much into that, but certainly can answer questions for you guys on anything as it relates to Oakland Hills as we go through the presentation. It's not up on my screen, but I assume it's going to roll. So there we go. So as we were here, and I'm not going to go through all the, kind of the facts and figures from the last 2 years that we've been working on this. I want to try and keep it kind of short and sweet for you. We have, after our last filing that was in May and went through the process in the June, July area, after a lot of conversations with the administration and staff, as well as with our engineers and ourselves on trying to come up with maybe a solution that we felt from all the conversations that we've had up till now, especially the last 3 months worth since we were at the Plan Commission and the Council, to try and come to a better site plan for this site and try to get something that we hope will work for you as a council and the Plan Commission on a go-forward basis. So this is our new plan, and it's the same, but it's different, is the easiest way to put this. So our overall, when we filed last time, we were at 252 units. We now are down to 243 units. We have one more townhome. We have 6 more estate homes. We have 19 less villas and 1 more of the custom homes. So I'll go through that in detail with you as we go, but that's the kind of the high level. One of the other things that we had heard was traffic and concerns on the entrance across from Walking Fern, and we figured out a way, we feel, to get rid of that entranceway at that location in order to help that solution as well. That allowed us to have more estate lots, which are the red ones on the picture. So that, in theory, should be a good thing. And then the major change, and I'll go through it when we get to the villas, is the whole configuration of the villas section has changed for the most part. So here's kind of the highlights, if you will. The villa lots, we were at 130 when we came in last time. We're down 19 lots, and that's where most of the conversation was the last time we were here. So we really focused on that section. Not only are there 19 less, we also pulled them well off the perimeter, as we'll see here shortly. We added the 6 lots to the estates, the custom lot, and then 1 for the townhomes, and eliminated the Carolina Trace entrance. One of the things that everybody also talked about was wanting to kind of see what this would look like, right? So we spent some time and money on some renderings. These are, not today's sized plants, but 10 years out, 5 years out, these plants and shrubs will have grown up to be this size. The spruces would be planted at say 6 to 7s, and by this point in time, they would be 12-foot tall trees. So that's kind of the idea here and what you see here. As this is looking northwest going up Carolina Trace. We've got the mound on the right. You can see the homes in the background there to the right side as well. But this is at 5 foot or 6 foot off the pavement, looking up the road as you would be in your car. This is more of a bird's eye view that shows where the houses are in relation to the berm. It also shows about where the property line is. That's about where the trees are planted in the rears of the homes. And so that gives you some better depth feel of where these homes are in location to the actual roadway itself. This is a streetscape kind of as you're going down the road. We will be working on several different landscape packages for this area. We're going to push to have 5 different packages. That way we don't have the same monotonous of everybody's got the same yew, everybody's got the same crabapple, everybody's got the same oak tree in the front yard. We want to give it some mix as we go, and the homeowners will do that on their own as they live in the homes as well. But we want to start them out with something just a little bit different as we go through. And obviously we'll get everything approved through the tree board as far as the plantings go that we have. Again, kind of an aerial view. You can see the ponds in the background, and we'll look at that here shortly. So this is the last time we were in here. This was the site plan that we had. We had increased the size of the lots on the east, or on the western and northern borders, if you will, to 70 footers. Everything else was in that 55 to 60 range through the rest of the project. We had kind of a loop street with a mini loop as we go in there, which we thought worked real well, but We heard a lot about take care of your perimeter the last time, and so we've listened. And then here's where we are. So some major differences that you'll see here is obviously we now have 3 cul-de-sacs instead of the loop roads. We've moved the stormwater detention facilities. We think we figured out a way to get those down along the east border, which is up against the golf course. We've eliminated a bunch of the homes around the perimeter of the site to help lessen that effect. So not only are there no homes where the ponds are, obviously, but the cul-de-sac lots also lessen the number of homes on a per lineal foot basis in that area. And then we got the homes, the lighter blue are at least 70-foot wide lots. And then one of the key components here is that because of this, we are able to move our cul-de-sac once it crosses the creek on the right side as you're looking at it on kind of the north side. We've pulled it back closer to the creek, which now lets those lots be anywhere between 160 to 250 feet deep that are up against Walking Fern and Land Hill South. So we've increased that depth, that ability to pull the homes away from that neighborhood. We still are going to have an average of 2 trees for each of the lots around the perimeter. Some of the lots have some narrow spots, so we aren't going to just plant 2 trees per lot. We want to make it an average so they get spaced out, or we have enough trees there that make sense and not put them in kind of silly locations. There's some wide spots that are up against the golf course. Maybe those ought to have 3. The narrower spots probably just have 1, but we'll average at least 2 lots per perimeter, 2 trees per perimeter lot that we have. So those are the major differences, if you will. Still have a dog park, still will have a fire pit. This drawing doesn't show the path system, and that's something we'll get put on there, but we'll same general path system that we showed before. Just let me go. Yeah, so actually the path system wasn't on that one either, but we will have a fire pit and the dog park here on the empty nester villa site. And that villa product is still the same as what we had talked about before. It'll have masonry, it'll have hardy plank, no vinyl in the project at this point in time. We'll have cottage doors, the architectural embellishments that we've discussed in the past, and the anti-monotony type of clauses that we need to have for this area. So just some of the pictures here. That's actual product off of Dry Fork. Those are the rear homes. You can see where folks have done some of their own plantings, but each of the homes around the perimeter will have a deck or a sunroom or a morning room or a covered porch, something to help break up the rear. Actually, you can see that in the here you can see where we planted on mostly covered porches just to show the roof breaks here, but we'll have some break to the rear of the home on all the perimeter homes as part of what we do. And we will either have a deck or a patio of at least 120 square feet with every home. So there won't be anything with a cross arms across the slider door on the back or anything like that. There will be some accessible patio or deck for each of these folks. So the part of those things I was just talking about, so we have, there's the breakdown on the lots, 9355s, 2370s. Price point still where we've talked about it being in the upper 300s, probably closer to 400 by the time we get there. Stone wraps on everything, hardy plank siding, the elevations, and then the big component to this is the landscape maintenance package that each of these folks will be part of. So we will take care of the grounds. Everything will get cut the same day, fertilized the same day, mulched the same couple of days, snow plowed, etc. On the driveways and the walks. And here's the perimeter part of things that we talked about. Fire pit, dog parks, an internal path system that will go with the villa lots. The townhomes, this was the original townhome layout. Again, we're going in and turning left, so to speak. Now we'll come to a T. And then as you go north out of this intersection, we'll take you into the estate lots. You can see we've got the pickleball court with a parking lot adjacent to it. I'm sure that we're going to get some play from outside the neighborhood. So we'll have a parking spot there for folks who happen to be driving in or bringing a golf cart over, whatever the case may be. And then we do have a dog park that'll be either on one side or the other of the creek up there at the top of the page. Pretty much, again, everything else the same as far as the townhomes go. Masonry around all four sides of the first few as you come in. Masonry fronts on the rest of them. Partitions, patios, multicolor to help break up the rear of the homes as we go. And then also some landscape in the back. We committed to a tree and 2 shrubs for each, on average for each unit, and we'll kind of clump those in as needed and make beds out of them as we go. These are the details. Pretty much hit all those. Those will have the cottage style doors as well. Mid to upper 300s, somewhere in that price point wise. This will be geared towards those folks, first time homeowners, folks that maybe have 2 jobs, don't have enough time to do their yard work, but don't want to be in the empty nester section. Young folks that don't have kids yet. Generally speaking, we don't see much from a kid perspective in this programming of townhomes. These are kind of some of the things that I talked about, additional parking and the internal pass for connectivity. We'll contemplate on whether the trail system ends up at the intersection, since we'll now just have the one intersection. Perhaps we'll bring the trails together with the intersection so we have a crosswalk at that same location. We'll kind of have to figure that one out, what we think the best layout is. And so this is the estate section. This is where we used to have the Carolina Trace intersection. And it had the homes going up there, keeping the existing home that was there. With our new layout, keeping the existing home gets a lot more difficult. So as of this point, we're planning on having the existing home go away, and it will become a couple of lots. But you can see here that now takes the intersection off of Carolina Trace. We will have obviously a lot of walkouts. We kept a buffer along the west side of this. We'll have a tree preservation area that is in the common space to help keep that existing wood line in place. And then also on the eastern side along Carolina Trace, we'll keep as many of those trees there as we can as well to help shelter the rear of the homes. And again, the estate homes will have some side load and some front load. I would suspect that the lion's share of them, if not all of them, will be 3-car garage. It's not standard because some of those lots, some folks, just they may want a larger home, but they've only got a couple of cars and don't feel the need. Each of these, for the most part, not every one of them, but I would say they'll be predominantly basements with these lots, just based upon the topo that we're dealing with there. I'm guessing that most everybody will have a basement in this section. Setbacks, front, rear, and sides are pretty much as we had advertised with our previous filing. We didn't have any discussions there that, at least that we heard, that we needed to change those in any way. So we've kept them the same. Then the custom lots, we had 2 different entries into the custom section previously. There's a small ravine that runs in between those 2 sections. When we went back out and walked the parcel, we felt that we could then change that and connect those 2 roads. And then that way it gives us an alternate ingress, egress out of this site in case one side is closed. And from an emergency standpoint, they can come in one side and go out the other without having to do a backup setup. So that was kind of the driver behind that ended up giving us 1 more lot because we filled in that ravine that was there that was originally common space. And those lots, as a reminder, those are all 1-acre lots. They're at least 95 feet. They go up to about 110 feet in width. And they are 1 acre in total. Obviously, tree preservation in the rear, we had talked about having the last 150 feet of the lots be kept into a tree preservation so we can keep that buffer in that location the best that we can. Average sales price, we said 700 and up. I would think it would be more than that, but that's kind of the starting point that we felt that anybody could build a home in that area. And those will all be on basements because of the topo as well, I'm sure. So getting back to the overall site, we have got some tree preservation areas that will be on our site. We are going to do what we can on our side to keep out of the root systems on the lower section that we've circled there. That's an existing tree buffer that's actually on the neighbors to the north here. But those roots are coming into our ground, so we'll make sure that we kind of stay off of that area for our swales and any mounding that may or may not happen in that zone. We'll make sure that we keep off those areas. Entry monument design, still kind of the same. These slides will be familiar to you. We'll only have one set of entry monuments now, as we only have one intersection. We have a couple of dog parks. We have a pickleball area. Fire pit's not, you can't really see it located there, but that's kind of what it might look like in the top right photo. Everybody knows what the pickleball looks like. The dog park, we're not sure if we will turf it or if we'll keep it in natural grass, so that'll be something we'll get to as we go through. Just kind of pass through that. We have 243 lots, again, as a reminder now. So we've gone down, especially on the villa side. Our open space was, I believe we are 23.42. I think we're only about a tenth of an acre difference from where we were last time. So the open space remained quite the same, which is almost 25% of the entire site is open. I don't think we need to get into that part of things. So that's the majority of things that I wanted to cover with you, and certainly open for any questions or comments from your guys' side.
You mentioned quite a bit in this plan about the trees.
Mm-hmm.
You've also done another development in the community, the West Haven.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to the situation on the trees there? Because I know we've had some issues with invasive species trees being planted there. Some of the trees were not planted properly, and they died, that sort of thing. Has that been rectified?
So the common area trees have all been rectified. We've had a couple little drought spots, and certainly some heat in some of the summers where we lost some of the spruces and some of the ornamentals. Not that many of the ornamentals, mostly spruces, in what we had planted along the mounds there. Those have all been replaced. Was through there today. Again, they're all looking pretty good at this point in time. I didn't notice anything that was dead in those areas. I do know that there was some spots that where Ryan Holmes had put in a gallery pear in several of the yards. Those have all been rectified, as I've been told. I don't know exactly which addresses they were, but I know there's been communication about that. And so, again, I think part of that was when we took our first step with West Haven and in that development. It was our first one here, and I don't think NBR Ryan or ourselves understood the tree board part of things and making sure that everything got approved from that perspective. So we're fully understandable now, and we've got on our plans, we've got labels for what plant material we're kind of proposing, and as we come back to you, hopefully we'll have a little bit more fully vetted out landscape plan at that point. We want to get your guys' comments first before we did anything else. But, and soil-wise, I think we just needed to amenitize the soil a little bit more than what we did, keep a little bit more topsoil around. There wasn't much topsoil on that site. So I think hopefully if we don't find the topsoil here, we'll at least be able to amenitize where the plants go in. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Any other questions from council?
I don't have any questions. I have some comments.
Sure.
I think that the villas looks a little bit better. I think it was smart doing the perimeter like that, where it's more thinned out. But then over here, you just kind of like shifted them. So I mean, it makes it better right here, which is good along this, entrance right here, but then there's just more on the other side. I think most of the issues I had first go around, it wasn't necessarily just the number of homes, it was more the strain on the first responders, the traffic, things like that. And I don't know that, even though this plan looks a little bit better to me in some ways, I don't know that it really is gonna fix that, and nor I don't even think that that's a you problem. I think it's just in general, any huge development that's gonna go in there is gonna face those issues. So I don't know if it's something you can necessarily address.
Are
It's
you
just-
saying from the perimeter? I've got the plan back up. So are you talking about
Yeah.
everything along Land Hill South and Walking Fern?
Yeah, so that was one of the.
Yeah, so
positives of this
we
plan, I think, a
we
little
took
bit.
the lots all the way there just to make the
Right.
lots bigger.
Right,
We
yeah.
could certainly, if the council desired it, we could bring those lots back to regular size and just make it common area. Either way, the idea here is that those homes, the back of those homes, some of those will be 180 feet from the back property line, the
Right,
back of the homes.
right.
So,
In regards to, she was talking about public safety primarily, I believe. Has there been consideration for sprinklers,
for the homes themselves,
homes themselves?
there has not.
I know we brought that up in a different development, and it's just something to obviously slow the process if there were a fire. So it was just something. I think it was 50 cents a foot.
No.
What's that? Oh, you're probably right. That was a couple of years ago, so it's probably $700 a foot. That might push that price range up a little bit more.
I didn't hear everything that Lexi said. If in fact you move those lots, made them shorter, for lack of a better term, would you have a berm like you have on Carolina Trace with 4 or 5 feet with trees and stuff on it
So,
between there and Walking Fern?
so we have a big elevation difference between Walking Fern and where our site is, as much as 10 feet. So I don't know how a berm can help, certainly, right? It can bring the height of the trees up some, but there's such a difference between where they are and where we are going to be that it's going to be very difficult. We also have a lot of water coming at us from that area. And we gotta be able to manage that water. And so we don't wanna, there's gonna be places where we constrict it and get it into a pipe or into a swale. And so maybe it can work, maybe we can find some spots for it. And if we have enough dirt out of there and can do a mound and it doesn't impede the drainage side of things, then we're totally fine with that. But I wouldn't wanna put a mound down there where all the trees are, right? Cause I don't wanna get to those roots. And as we go further north, if there's a way for us to have one in there, we would proactively want to put one in there if we can figure it out and the dirt balance and all that, because that will only help our neighbors, right? Our clients would like to have a mound back there as well. And if we're planting trees, if we can put them on a mound, great. So, but I, at this point in time, with the amount of engineering that we've done, which isn't that much, I don't want to commit to that. But just know that, generally speaking, we would try to put a mound in that area if we can. Just knowing the focus on that zone as we've seen it, we would try to do that if possible. But again, I just don't know from a water standpoint if that's the right thing to do or not yet.
We're up here, we're like in a circus, we're juggling a lot of different things, trying to appease a lot of different people.
Right.
And whatever way we can do that, it'd be helpful.
And I understand that. And again, it's one of those things. I was in a hearing last night and they asked me to commit to a couple of things, and it's a little early in that process to commit to that. And I'm not saying that even by the time we would come back, whether we will know for sure or not. It's more when we get into the engineering and the hydraulics analysis and the drainage analysis for this area, that will tell us what we can and can't do. But, I can say best efforts to put a small mound in, yeah.
Thank you.
I have one minor question. On the stormwater drainage, do you expect those to be filled with water all year round?
Yes, those will be wet ponds.
Okay.
and they will discharge into the creek
Okay.
and then flow through.
I just have one question as well. On the last page of this slide, the slideshow, it's the anticipated number of children that's gonna be coming into this school. Where'd you guys come up with these numbers?
So those numbers are from, I can't quote the source off the top of my head, but there are several sources out there that we'll go to that are national type sources that
Right.
say, you know, here's how much.
I just
per-
feel
and-
like
and-
in this area, this is extremely low.
So the villa side of this, our numbers from the villa side came from actuals from the villas on Dry Farm.
Okay, yeah, I would
So that
agree
was
with
an
that.
actual.
I would agree with that.
So
but
we used the same.
the other
factor.
two-
The other two were just based
That's-
upon what we see on and I can't remember if it was Midwest or if it was nationally.
Okay,
But it was, and we checked a couple of different sources and they both were about the same as far as the factors to use. Again, you're gonna have pockets where it doesn't make any sense. You're gonna have pockets where it's the other way. That's just seems to be the average, and that's not necessarily a.
so I live
A
in the
builder.
parks of Whitewater, and I know that for the amount of homes that you have here, the school-age kids that are there is way over this. Way over.
Right.
I have 4, my neighbors have 6, another neighbor has 4, like, all kinds of
Maybe that's not the
I'm
problem.
not gonna.
This just seems extremely low to me, that's all I want to say.
Understand, and then there's schools of thoughts with different price points on what you have as well, and we kind of just, we tried to fit it the best and use our best judgment on what the data was telling us.
Okay.
Could it be twice as many in the States? It could be less, but we aren't statisticians from that perspective, and we've got to rely on some experts that do that, and so that's how we got to those numbers.
I live on Harmony Drive, and we
Yes, sir.
just had a couple buy a house right next door to me, and they have one child, which increased about 25% of what we've got on our whole street.
Right. So it really does depend, right? And you're not a maintenance-free area. Now, you have folks maybe who have been there a while and the kids have aged out. And so that's the other thing. As neighborhoods go through their natural progressions of age outs, and you have, you know, once your kids have grown and left, but you guys decide to stay there for another 20 years, that brings that average down. Now, it doesn't mean the grandkids won't be there.
I got you.
But it's all depends on the cycles and who's moving in at what time and how that all plays out.
If you want to extend that maintenance-free, count me in.
Not free. We'll take care of your yards for you, but not for free.
Okay, count me in.
Okay?
Any other questions or comments from council?
Yeah, on the entrance to the development, what's the possibility of putting a roundabout there? Is that something that would be well received? Is that something that could be done?
Well, anything can be done. That would be a fairly substantial, based on the flow coming through there and the speed that they're coming through, that would have to be a pretty large roundabout. I don't think the traffic, I don't think the traffic analysis that we had done would justify that, would warrant that. There wasn't even a warrant for a left turn lane into the townhome area, if you will, of coming from the north, or opposite way coming from the south, in the traffic analysis that we did and that the city reviewed and approved.
And that's interesting. That could be true. I just know that, like down at West Road in Carolina Trace to the
Yep.
south,
The new one.
you know, getting a left turn. Well, there's a roundabout up by the high school, junior high, but
That's
at West Road in Carolina
I'm sorry,
Trace,
yes.
trying to get a left turn there is very difficult today, right? And I'm just kind of, that's probably where I'm kind of drawing that, you know, thought that, you know, people trying to continue north on Carolina Trace past the subdivision, you know, could get stuck on somebody trying to make a left turn into the townhomes, or the same thing, someone coming southbound versus
Back into the village.
yeah, you know, left turns into the development, you know, could go a little quicker with the roundabout. I don't know. I'm a fan. Some people hate them. I love them.
And I like them, but they are very expensive to put in, and as cities putting them in are.
And if you don't put one in better than the ones out there high school, don't do it.
Yeah,
I think that one sucks.
really.
What do you think, Jared?
What do you really think?
Does anybody like it? I agree. You're one of the very few.
It's,
Terrible roundabout.
Okay. Anything else?
One other thing that I'm not a huge fan of, just since you're here asking what our preferences are. I feel like everything nowadays is facing the backs face outwards, and I don't know if there's even a way to fix that in this specific plan, but just in general, I think that there'd be a lot less opposition if the pretty part of the house was facing what everybody sees all day long. Because I know, like, your pictures at the beginning where it was the mature trees, it looks good, it looks fine because you can't really see that much of it, but I mean, for the next 10 years, people are gonna have to go past that every day looking at the backs of the houses, which are relatively clean. I know you mentioned the pop-outs and things like that, but I think that that's just something that would be better in future sites, just in general, just a thought.
Thank you.
just to comment on that, I think why they do that today is to get, if you're trying to back out onto West Road, if you live on West Road, on that, where all those houses are lined up, or even Carolina Trace, that's hard to get in and out of versus, you know, it's probably easy to get out of your home up in Brooks of Whitewater and then come out to the main road. Same thing
Right,
with
I don't know
West
if you
Haven.
could even do like a road in here like this, but just have the road be, I mean, kind of like up here where they have their own road in the front.
But, you know, if you look at New Haven Road up at West, where they have West
Right.
Haven and Brooks of Whitewater, the rear of those homes look nice. The ones at West Haven, not so nice, right? And the trees.
And we're, just for clarity, we're not having that product that everybody's
Right.
talked about. That's not going to be.
Understood, yeah.
And I think now that the trees have grown a little bit and on the mound at Dry Fork, I think that's starting to do its job from a blocking the villa lot.
Mrs. Chuck out here is shaking her head, because she was out there today, and she doesn't agree with the assessment you've had on the trees, or the reports that you're getting. I don't know if she can come up and comment on that at some point, or whatever, but she was there on site today, and did not see what you're reporting.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Do we have any other guests or visitors that would like to speak at this time? Okay. Could you come up to the podium?
Yeah, come on up, Kip.
I guess I'm gonna leave it back in. Guess I have to come back up. Just gonna get it to the appropriate slide.
We don't have to leave this up, because what I'm gonna talk about is not germane to this. Is there any way to get this down?
Okay. Can you just put the agenda up, Joey?
Say again? All right, okay. Well, yeah, I guess it could come in
Agenda.
handy as an aid. What I would like to ask is, what I really have tonight is a question. It's a process question regarding changing the language to the zoning code. Before Shannon left, I think Joette and I and a few members of the Front Door Project talked with Shannon about the ability to go in and alter the code, the wording of the code, to reflect some of the things that we as neighbors, both from the city and the township, would like to see, not only for this development moving forward, but for every development moving forward. Lexi, we're very much like you. We call ourselves the Front Door Project for a reason. you know, there's a proud tradition in Harrison of homeowners putting their front of their house forward, decorating it, landscaping it, making sure that grass is cut, and extending the pride they have in their home to the community and making the community a better place. We feel like especially West Haven is an example of really an eyesore and a detriment to the community. And so what we would like to find out at the pleasure of City Council is whether or not we have the ability to go in and alter the zoning language. And as I understand it from Shannon, what would be involved with that, and I know I'm a township resident, what would be involved with that is I'd have to find some sponsors. We'd have to find sponsors with city residents. We'd have to find ideally someone from the Planning Commission to work with us and make sure we got the language right and understood, you know, what we were doing. And then ultimately we would need a city council member to bring the wording change to the city to vote on, and then it would either be voted in or it would be denied. That's my understanding of how a zoning language change takes place. I just want to make sure from a governance standpoint, a protocol standpoint, I've got that right.
It's pretty close.
Okay.
So the process would be that the change would start within the planning department, building and zoning. And a resident can bring that to the attention of the building and zoning department, or they can initiate themselves. It then would be presented at planning commission, who would make a recommendation to council. You don't need a council member to introduce that. Planning commission forwards it with either a favorable or unfavorable recommendation.
So it could potentially get denied at the planning commission stage.
It does not get denied. It gets a positive or negative recommendation.
I see.
So it'll get one of the two. At the planning commission, when Gradison was forwarded with their last proposal to council, I made a motion to forward it with a unfavorable recommendation. It had to go either unfavorable or favorable recommendation to council, because that's the next step. It doesn't die in planning commission and get denied council's chance to look at it. The same with any change to the zoning code. So the zoning code amendment would be presented to planning commission and forwarded with either a favorable or unfavorable recommendation for council's consideration. If it has a favorable recommendation, it takes a simple majority to pass it, simple majority to fail it. If it has an unfavorable recommendation, it takes a simple majority to fail, but a supermajority of 5 votes to pass. Is that correct, Mr. Dieters? So.
And then, okay, good. And I'll have to refer to the transcript to kind of make sure I got that exactly straight. And then I guess a following question is in regard to PUDs. I know that changing the zoning code doesn't affect or impact the outcome of a PUD proposal necessarily, but my hope is that the City Council would recognize that the spirit of the community is such that motivated them to make this change, and so that they would take that into consideration as they consider developments, whether it's from Gradison or other future developers. And again, you know, we put in good faith, Front Door Project put together what we called the compromise plan. We entered it into the, you know, the record, and I was disappointed that the new plan from Gradison had very little of what. It was almost like they didn't even care what we thought. So what it is what it is. But if we can change the zoning language, and honestly, we're going to get on this tomorrow, and I would hope that we could get it changed in time to impact this decision. But if not, you know, for the future of Harrison and to keep further projects from West Haven from happening, you know, maybe we lose this one, who knows, TBD. But, you know, I feel like a proud resident that wants to keep this community strong and integral. This needs to be done.
So the process for zoning changes typically takes at a minimum 90 to 120 days because of the public hearings that are required. Mm-hmm. So prior to Planning Commission considering it, there's a public hearing, and prior to council considering it, there's a second public hearing. So that extends the time frame. It's not show up at the second Tuesday of the month and then show up the third Tuesday of the month at the next council meeting, council or planning, then council, and the change could be affected. So there's a timeframes in between there, and there's mandated times of maximum timeframes till we can hear things unless there's an extenuating circumstance. There's a change to it, things like that, but generally it's 45 days, I think, is the longest we can be between those processes for public hearings.
Would it be possible for you guys to vote to table any decision on this particular development for 120 days to allow that process to take place so that you could, so that any decision you make could be informed by this new language?
I'd have to ask the law director about the legality of that since we're in process.
I have to look at it, Your Honor, but I think once an application's in, it comes in under the rules that exist at the time the application was filed.
So,
So no.
But, you know, we'd have to get a legal opinion on that. I know that we've put moratoriums in place on other things like marijuana dispensaries was one that we did for a period of time, so that we could research the legislation and make sure that what we put in place fit and was legal within the state. Those are things that we would always defer to our legal counsel to make sure that we manage them correctly.
All right. Joette, there she is. You and I have spoken. Can I continue to use you as a liaison and someone that we can work with? Okay, all right, okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else that would like to speak this evening?
I want to thank the council for allowing me to speak. I was here last week when this presentation was made. I was unable to speak. Nobody was able to ask any questions, but Mr. Mears, Adam Mears, said that if you would email him with questions, he would answer them. So that evening, as a tree board member, I made a list of issues, and I emailed them to him. That was last Tuesday. I heard from him today concerning the responses that I had for the questions that we had about the berms. The berm is pictured in the rendering, looked like a mature planting about 15 to 20 years down the line. That's not what we're going to get right away, and not for 15 to 20 years. The public will not see this going up and down Carolina Trace. Mr. Mears agreed that this was common. They give renderings of what it's going to look like with mature plantings. So I think if you're going up and down Carolina Trace, you're not going to see that rendering. That's not what it's going to look like. I also wanted to know what types of trees, shrubs, and ground covers were going to be used, including the heights and the calibers of the trees. Were they going to be little? What was this pot size? He said this was just a preliminary landscape design. He said it was a conceptual plan, not an actual plan. And if asked by council, this would be included in their next submittal. I asked what the berm size was. There's a big difference in berm size. This would only be 4 to 5 feet high, is what he said. I asked also why there wasn't a berm designated between the lots adjoining walking fern. 2 trees per lot would offer little or no barrier for the homeowner or people traveling on walking fern. He said the grade elevations were going to make it tough for a mound to help, as there was as much as 10-foot elevation change along walking fern. And Mr. Gradison also addressed that tonight. The lots are over 200 feet deep, and they will have plantings back there to help to screen. 2 trees per lot is not enough to screen anything. He complained that there were large amounts of water coming from Landhill South, and they would need to deal with this in their design. And it may not allow them to have any mounding there so they can manage the water. Mr. Gradison addressed the same thing tonight. They did want to cover the roots of the existing trees that are on Landhill's property. We have a lot of Norway spruce that line walking fern. A 6-foot earthen berm planted correctly with deciduous trees, mixed conifers, and shrubs would hide any 10-foot elevation change along walking fern. The control of the water coming from Landhill South is the responsibility of the developer. All drainage and berm construction takes place on the property of the developer and should not interfere with any existing plantings installed by Landhill South. Water management on both sides of the berm is also totally the contractor's responsibility. That includes drain tile, French drains, or grading required to handle any amount of water passing onto the proposed development from Landhill or any other adjacent property. He also felt 2 trees per lot would be adequate since they plant for the long haul, is what he said, and spruces get up to be 30 feet in width and would provide a nice break for the sight lines. Also, there is no barrier or berm on the opposite side of the road of their luxury lots. There's no planning there on what's going to be in the backyards that we're going to see people traveling up and down Carolina Trace. They could be forced to look at the backyards of these homes that could include out-of-the-ground pools, trampolines, garden sheds. Those are all allowed on that side of Carolina Trace. There is no plans for any kind of berm to protect the residents or the people traveling up and down Carolina Trace. The Harrison Tree Board, of which I'm the chairman, has a history with Gradison, Ryan Homes, West Haven. There is a saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The tree board approved the PUD for West Haven, but we were promised treed berms, plus each home with street trees. We were promised in writing to have a list of trees and caliber of trees going in before planting started. We were promised this in June 2017. We fought with these organizations over several years before getting a list of trees, in addition to promises to remove and replace unacceptable and or dead trees. You can look at the berms on New Haven and on Dry Fork. Mr. Gradison said he went out there today. My husband and I went out there, we took photographs. There's still dead trees. There are trees that need to be pruned. They have suckers growing up on them. If he thinks that is great, after 5 years, I can't agree with him as a tree board member. Because we had this problem with Ryan Gradison, the tree board wanted to take action, and we had worked to make changes in the landscape ordinances. We have worked for several years with Shannon, and Shannon said, oh, we're going to make some changes. We're going to make some changes. They did include some of the changes that we wanted to eliminate the possibility that anybody would put calorie pears in. But they did not address the one issue that we had with homes that the backyards face major roads. This was something that we were concerned about, the tree board was concerned about, and we were told that this would be in a PUD, it would be addressed individually, that was the whole thing for a PUD. It could not be in the city ordinances. That's what we were told. And when we did all this before Oakland project came up. This was to prevent anything else like West Haven to come into our area. We worked on this, and then we saw the West Haven project. And our board met, and we sent a letter to Shannon Hammond saying that the tree board would insist on making berms, landscaped berms, on any properties that were going in that had backs facing major roads. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that this is what our tree board would insist on when it would come to our tree board for a recommendation to approve any project coming in. I don't know why when a developer comes in, the planning commission can't say, okay, if you're going to put a project in and you have backs facing the street, this is one thing you have to do. This should be told them immediately. This has to happen. So, I mean, the other thing that we wanted to address was tree preservation that Mr. Gradison was talking about tonight. We were upset with West Haven because there was a whole area that they included in their open space. It was really unusable honeysuckle and scrub trees. I don't know what the trees are like that he has. Is there tree preservation on the other side of the road? Because there's nothing on the Landhill side that they can preserve but one tree. On the other side, I don't know if that tree preservation, what type of trees? Are there oak trees? Are they good trees? Are they scrub trees and a bunch of honeysuckle? That all should be eliminated before they could develop that property. But I thank you for allowing me to talk to you tonight about this. I hope you take this in consideration in this development as it goes. Thank you.
Just a minute, Mark. Mark, just a minute. Let them finish.
I kind of have a process question as well. So on May 3rd, when this council voted down the last revision of this, somebody, I forget who it was up here, somebody said that next steps were we would wait Gradison would have to wait 6 months to come back with a revision. And I saw two different emails, which were slightly different, but in my mind, this is a revision. This isn't a new plan. It's basically, I thought it was 6, you said 9, but I'm counting 6 less homes. It's rearranging of the deck chairs, moving some homes over to the more expensive side, which again are more likely to have more kids. We have the same issues. It's the same traffic issues. It's all a bottleneck down there at the bottom. I don't know how someone's gonna get across that street, but the same traffic issues, the same school issues, the same quality of house issues. There was a big difference between the picture of the actual home that we just saw and the picture of the, the cartoon rendering. They look very different when you see what the actual back of that home looked like that we're gonna be looking at. So I feel like there's all the same issues, but yet it sounded like, from what Mark said, right after the first meeting, there's been continuous talk, and 3 months later, they're back. So I guess my first question is, why is that? Why aren't we waiting 6 months?
Mr. Dieters?
There's no moratorium except for the fact that once council votes it down, you have to start over. So if you do a revision, you don't have to go all the way back to the very beginning of the process. You can revise, but my understanding is that there was a new application filed and they started over. So there's no time limit. You have to wait before you.
So we were incorrectly told about the 6-month rule? There is no 6-month rule?
I don't know who told you anything, ma'am. I'm just saying that if there was a new application.
But are you saying you don't have to wait 6 months, or are you saying because they filed and paid for a new application,
They started the
it
process.
started all over?
They started a new process by filing a new application and starting over. They didn't revise a current plan.
So is this a revision, or is this a brand-new plan?
It's a brand-new submission.
Okay, so I guess that kind of gets to what I think is the heart of a lot of this, is you just heard Gail, trick me once. There's not trust here with Gradis and Ryan.
So
They've been here.
So
I'm getting on to
I'm gonna
comments
ask- I'm gonna
versus
ask you a
questions.
question. If it's 6 months, if that were the thing, we're still in that 6-month period because they've not made a formal presentation. This is all informal.
Mm-hmm.
So if the 6 months was a thing that they had to worry about, that clock's still running. They're here gathering information so that their submittal will be something that hopefully gets accepted. That's their goal. Mr. Dieters has looked at this and said that 6 months is not a requirement in this case. That's our legal guidance that we've received. So, but we're still May, June, July, August, September. They've missed the September deadlines. October is the earliest they're going to be able to have a submission. That's 5 months. So we're 1 month difference there.
Okay.
30 days.
I think for me,
I don't
it felt like
understand
more
what
kind of
30
like,
days does to this development or your neighborhood.
well, I feel like it goes back to the trust. It feels like there was something kind of in the works.
Well, I've seen people read sentences, this person and this person, no particular people, and this person has a 180-degree different understanding than this person. So our comprehensive plan is a plan. It is not legislation, yet we're being told that we have to have 1-acre lots. It's a desirement. There's no requirement in that plan to follow every last bit of it. There's parts of that plan that conflict each other because different parts of the northern neighborhoods are laid out differently. But if it suits you or it suits them, they read it, interpret it to their best interest. They don't look at it in a grand scale. And that's what was done during comprehensive plan. The 18 months of planning that happened in that plan were an all-encompassing plan. It didn't take a microscope and look at these about 60 acres and say, this fits this 60 acres to a T perfectly. It had to incorporate areas other than these 60 acres that potentially could end up being annexed in and developed. And one of those is out on Edgewood Road. So, and they're building a different development there than's being developed here or proposed here. So when we read stuff, we should read it for what it's written as. Common law says you take the common meaning. You don't interpret it in your best interest. So somebody might have said 6 months, and maybe they were misstating. And I'm sorry about that, breaking some trust. But I was told 100 times by 100 people that this says 1 acre. It has to be 1 acre. If you read that plan and you read these are the desired things, nothing in there is legislated. Our code doesn't say that. At some point, if the code gets changed to that, that's awesome. That's what the community decides. Unfortunately, the city residents control that process. You happen to live a few hundred feet outside of the city. So unless you can get a bunch of people in the city to change that legislation, where we're at, we have to enforce the laws on our books for our residents, for the property in our city.
So I hear you, and I think you're right that people hone in on the things that they want to hear. And I think the most important thing is, especially for council, because I know it's your job, is to think about the larger picture and the community as a whole. And
so I'll tell you, there's been times in the past since I've moved here where they would tell you don't have a voice in this room. The last 8 years, I've given the entire community that surrounds Harrison a voice in this room. I've put people that don't live in the city on boards because it's good for our community. I think I've done a pretty good job at trying to make it a community instead of a city that has people that live around it. We're not in this little microcosm and everybody else is in their own world over
right,
there.
because a year ago, this was in the township.
Well, so
I mean, before it got annexed.
The legalities of it are that everybody that lives in the city is part of the township. They vote for the township representation, just like everybody in the city votes for city council. Unfortunately, the city segregated, incorporated into the city, and there's a council that regulates that differently than the township.
Just like the township's affected by the schools and the school levies, and so all these things that could happen do impact
The school district
us.
overlays 3+ townships. So people in Butler County, the small precinct W in Butler County gets to vote on school levies, along with all of Harrison Township, all of Crosby Township, all of Whitewater Township. We're just one little piece of that pie.
Yeah.
And
So bottom line, I guess, back to the big picture, like you were saying, I feel like the same major concerns from the first round that you all voted on are still here. There's still the traffic, because I'm not looking at just my street.
How do you, the number one thing I've heard about is after after 1 acre lots is the house backs are towards Carolina Trace. That would be about 25 driveways out to Carolina Trace, or the neighbor across the street's gonna be looking at the back of my house if I live facing Carolina Trace. Well, so I've seen that. I've seen what you're talking about, which then causes a much, I mean, if you put a access road, they have those in Fairfield Township, so now you've lost development area to the developer, and he's And he's here, and if that's what he's gonna do, he's gonna make all the lot sizes smaller, which is something that you don't like. So there's a trade-off, and this is within our regulations, and I'm sorry that, you know, I've drove down Land Hill South. Guess what I saw in Land Hill South? Vinyl siding. Oh my God. There can't be any vinyl siding in this subdivision because people don't want it. You don't want to drive past it, but you drive past it and you're in subdivision. So.
Do me a favor, just do me a favor, and they're putting in a new development, MI Homes. I don't know if you're familiar.
Where's it at?
Or not, and it's in Dent, just up Harrison Avenue, right now they're breaking ground, which does exactly what you're describing, what Alexis described. What I forget, excuse me for interrupting,
Where?
but I just can't let that go on.
Where at?
It's up past, Myers, you know, the grocery store, you go up Harrison Avenue, just keep going, stay on Harrison Avenue, it's off to the right. On past what? Past Bellevue Circle, it's going in right now as we speak, and there is one. right
Is it beyond Fieldview Circle or prior to?
right
But, so before Cherry.
I would love for you and everybody else here.
I drive that street every week. I'm down that street.
Okay, good. And also one at Devontree Summit Park in Blue Ash. I've been there. I've seen the homes. They're MI homes again. Not a single home faces the back of it faces the street. Every one, the front faces. They have access roads. The homes are close together. The homes were built for under a lot of times we don't want to repeat anything that's incorrect. But they were built for under $1 million in this neighborhood recently, and there have been two sold for over $1 million, and the whole project was completed in 2 years or something.
Well.
They're gorgeous. And the warranty to the houses. This is the classic. They guarantee the home structurally.
Well,
Please note this.
every builder.
15 years for anything that goes wrong, and the warranty is transferable. So when you talk quality home building, I don't know, I don't have a friend that lives in MI home,
So
but I'll tell you,
MI
that's
Homes,
our competition.
MI Homes is not here presenting tonight, and
I
they
know
don't
that
have
they
an
could
option
be.
on the property.
My
They had
point is they could be.
they had as much of an opportunity to purchase and get an option as Gradison
Well,
did.
maybe they weren't contacted, no one was available. I don't have any idea about that.
Oh.
You know.
I know the property
I
was
just know
marketed
what we're getting
for years,
for
so,
what we want is not what we want.
well, the best way to control property is to own it, and right now, Gradison has the option on the property.
So
Wait,
can I just say one thing before I sit down real quick? I just want to reiterate, I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers
Right.
about the backs of the homes or all that, but I know that the traffic in the school are still an issue.
So-
It's still at high density, and that it's still an issue, and you mentioned Edgewood. I mean, what's a rush? Why
So
can't we
can
see
I-
the impact that has before we go plopping another one down? That's all. I don't have the answers, I'm just saying, I know it's a problem. And we shouldn't do a traffic study just to see if we need a left-hand turn. We know there's a traffic issue already there. How are 250 more homes, 500 drivers not gonna make that worse? I mean, it just doesn't even make sense. So that's just my point. I don't have the answers, but I know that those are two big issues that somebody needs to be thinking about big picture for the whole community before we plop down another 400 homes, 400, or 250 homes. That's all, that's all.
If I may, I'd like to make a point of clarification about access roads. And I would encourage every member of council with my minute drive for most of you, go to Miami Trace subdivision, right across from the high school. Mark Radisson, I would encourage you to do the same thing. What you're gonna see there is a very elegant design solution with 8-foot berms, elegant landscaping that was looking good pretty much after the first couple of years, followed by an access road. So there's no, to your point earlier about the only way to do this is to have driveways in the streets. No. There's only one entry into that subdivision. It's probably what you would call high density.
So
And
it's,
I think if that was, if you brought in folks like Mike May and quality builders, they could devise a compromise that would allow the Kerr family to sell their property and allow the
If-
city of Harrison to have an elegant solution moving forward.
there's a significant difference in that property and how it is topographically compared to what they're looking at. I'm sorry, I have to say that comparing what they have over at the Mike May development off of Dry Fork Road and this is comparing an apple and a rock. It's not even another piece of fruit because the topography over there did not lend itself to build on the street. You had to put an access road down the hill into the development. Significantly different layout. If they had had flat property, they would have developed it much differently than they had. They had constrictions that they worked with, and the back of the development that's in Crosby Township was developed and managed under Crosby Township's building and zoning, not ours. Yes. So, I'm not gonna go, never mind.
So my question, it goes along with the houses, and now we are going from the three separate, now we're down to two. So we have, counting the lots at the top, the 11, taking those out. If we bring those out of the equation, we come down to what, 232, I believe? Is that right? So if you have we done studies to say how many cars are at each house? So how many cars per household? Okay.
So the traffic study, just Mark said we, and that's an inaccurate statement. The third party was contracted by Gradison to conduct, and they're independent, and the county engineer sets the regulations on how the study will be conducted.
So,
and they conducted a study and gave their findings to both Gradison and the city.
okay.
And I believe a lot of people have already seen that study or requested copies of it.
Okay. So my question was just, let's say an average of 2 cars, like you had said, 464 cars. And now instead of the 3 accesses plus, you know, the estate lots or whatever we're calling them at the top, the 11, you're having potentially 464 cars, staggered times, of course, I understand that, but you're having them now come out of 2 entrances. Not to mention, you're selling these huge houses, these estate lots where you're wanting families to come, but yet you're having them come into an entrance with townhomes that are, quote unquote, not as classy, not as nice looking. So this is what you're seeing as soon as you come into this new side, this new entrance that they're having. These are just things that I want everyone to think about moving forward. Is there going to be another traffic study done? Because now we're pumping out 464 cars out of 2 entrances, possibly more. So will there be another traffic study done since we're condensing the entry and exit areas now?
So we'll have to evaluate that if another traffic study is necessary or not, but.
I just don't understand how it wouldn't be relevant, considering we're dropping an entry and exit point.
That's something that we would have to evaluate.
Okay.
I don't have that answer tonight.
Okay. That was just my concerns, as far as also how it's going to look, having, you're entering an estate lot section into a townhome.
So we've been at this over an hour, and this was supposed to be an informal presentation to council, so I'm gonna stop public comment at this point.
I just had that was just my question. Thank you.
I will allow Mark, if he's got any of the items he'd like to address those. If he does not wish to, that's fine.
Mr. Mayor, one thing I would like to clear up. I don't know how many people watch Facebook or Harrison Happenings. As good as things Harrison Happenings does do, sometimes they allow things that I don't think they should. For example, there was a statement on Harrison Happenings today that said there was people in this city who were benefiting financially from this project. And I put on there, if you find out there are, please let me know. Because I'll be the big dummy that goes to the lawyer and press charges. Because no one on this council and no one on the planning commission is getting a dime from anybody. And obviously we're trying to balance out this whole project to benefit you, the citizens of Harrison, the citizens of Harrison Township, the builder, the owner of the land, everybody. And it's not an easy job to do that. And for someone to put on Facebook, Harrison Happenings, that we're benefiting financially, I think sucks. And I wish to the hell I knew who did it, that who would imply that. That's all I got.
Mr. Grasson, do you have any comments?
Just real briefly, the tree board and that situation, as we submitted to you before, we had a landscape plan, if you will, more trees shown and all that. This was an introduction. This was more about the conceptual plan, the changes that we had made, of trying to give relief to the Land Hill South people off of their border, less homes along the golf course, which is what we heard from you all in the Plan Commission through the process. And we addressed those items. We will have cleaned up detail on there. There will be plantings on the other side of the road. There will be some mounding on the other side of the road. We will keep as many trees as we can on the other side of the road. I don't think we're going in there to do a tree inventory to say what every tree is that's in that 10 acres of preservation space. The idea was to provide a buffer from ourselves and the folks to the west in Carolina Pines. As far as West Haven goes and the continued conversation about that, this development will not be that style of development. And I understand that there may be some folks that don't think that we can pull that off. I can assure you we can pull this off, and we'll do it in the proper fashion. I wasn't here for the original design of West Haven. We were brought in as a developer for Ryan Homes through the process. And so the plan was already in place when we took over. And so, yes, there were some things that didn't go nearly as well as we would have liked them to. We've been doing this for 30 years. We can't be perfect at every job that we do. We're going to do our darndest to make sure that this and any future jobs that are done in Harrison have the utmost attention from our landscape side of things and making sure that we get there. We don't plant trees too close together because they need to grow and they need to become something that's stable and mature and survive. And so we try to use the best industry standards as we can as we plant those. Some trees are going to be different than others, and you can't just say every tree is going to be 15 feet on center or 20 feet on center. Those things will evolve as we go through this in this process with you guys, and we will come back to you with a plan that will have calipers, that will have the style of homes. I mean, we had the approved tree list listed on our submittal the last time, and we will do that again. So those are the things that we will do and commit to you that you will have the next go-around as we go through this. There will be more detail that you'll see once we have that public hearing and we come to you with the full package, so to speak. Tonight, as the mayor stated, was an introduction, so we didn't have all the others and we didn't anticipate all the conversation this evening. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move into the business portion of the meeting now. Our first item is a vote on an ordinance amending the amount appropriated to various funds of the city of Harrison.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any conversation or discussion on this?
Yeah, Mayor, a couple of these line items out here, they are big ticket items. We have one for $250,000 that is going to be used for the Dry Fork Bridge, but that is actually going to be reimbursed back to the city, I believe from a transportation infrastructure grant. Another item on here is approximately $474,000 for the Harrison Avenue paving. And really what this relates to is there's a project underway that will do the mill and overlay from, I believe, Stone Drive down to New Haven, but this project is going to be extended down to Jefferson, so it'll go from New Haven down to Jefferson. So this is encompassing that additional cost, but there will be a reimbursement from a sorter grant and Hamilton County Municipal Road Fund of about $313,000, so the city's total cost for the increased project is about $162,000. So also, there's $19,000 out here that is actually those are assessments that are being transferred into the road fund, or the street and curb repair fund. Or, I'm sorry, the streets fund for street and curb repairs. So those are what those three items are for.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Grubbs.
Yay.
Samuels.
Yay.
Dole.
Yay.
Maines.
Yay.
Wilson.
Yay.
Egner.
Yeah.
It's ordinance 12 of 23.
Any items to add this evening? Okay, we'll move into the reports. This past weekend was the Mayor's Fund Golf Outing. I'd like to thank all the sponsors for all of the different things we had and all the golfers who participated. We were extremely fortunate. It did not rain on us. We got a small little drizzle that came through, but that was about it. Overall, the golf outing was very successful. So our next event that the Mayor's Fund will be doing is a toy drive for the Christmas distribution. I'm going to be contacting local businesses. We're going to try to get those boxes out in the businesses during October. A little bit earlier than last year, but it's a little easier if we get started earlier. We'll get those out. You'll be seeing them around. The boxes will have a red gift wrap on them and a sign on the side that tells you the information about the Mayor's Fund and when gifts will be collected through. So be looking for those in the near future. And that's all I have from my report this evening. Law Director.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I do not have any report this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, do you have a report this evening?
The only report I got is thanking everybody for their prayers and concerns for Jane. She's had a pretty rough 4 months, and probably gonna have another 2 to 3 months on a recuperation, but she's a tough old girl, so she's hanging in there.
Mr. Egner, do you have a report?
I do not have a report.
Mr. Grubbs, do you have a report?
Just real quick, I'll cover some fire items. Monthly reports have come out. It looks like runs are pretty consistent with last year's information for the same time of year, projected maybe slightly higher by end of year. The recovery from both fire and EMS from outside the city continues to be on pace per budget. Lexipol, which is a reporting system and just an internal system for the fire department as well as the police department, but it is currently underway and expected to be fully on pace by November, somewhere thereabouts. Right now they are going through policy and just making sure that we're consistent across the state of Ohio. The Safe Haven baby box, we're looking for a contractor for the installation and working with somebody to get certified for that installation. As soon as that has been approved, we look to get that installed maybe over the next month, month and a half. We do have an ambulance remount. We decided to go with remounting an existing cab rather than buying a whole new ambulance. New ambulance is probably running about $350,000 now, maybe $375 at the pace it's been going up. We decided to take the box off the back of it and put it on a new chassis, and that will be about $173,000. We put that on order, and we expect that probably about January of 2025. That's how long it's going to take. And that is all I have for fire. That's all I have to report, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Samuels, do you have a report?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Police committee met tonight. For the month of July, there were only 16 auto accidents, so it's much lower than our current average, so that's a positive thing. Everyone, I would like to point out that obviously school has gone back into session, so be very wary. Kids walking around, walking to and from school, increased traffic over by the high school. I currently drop my son off in the morning and pick him up in the afternoon occasionally, so it is very busy over there, so please be aware. The jail camera system, the upgrade that was approved earlier this year has been completed. Also, there was an exterior camera system upgrade that has been completed also. Another project that the police department's looking into is adding in a cruiser parking fence just to protect the cruisers. They're looking at about 18 to 26,000, so that's something they're looking into. Current staffing is about 24 healthy sworn officers, so everyone is healthy and able to work, so that's a good thing. The SRO John Deere vehicle was upgraded with sun visors, and really not significant, but I do want to point out that that was paid for by the tap room fundraiser, I believe was July? Community tap. Okay, I thought it was in February or March of when that was for the police department. So, if anybody went down to the Classic Car Show event, we had our first deployment of the Meridian barriers. Those are the green barriers that you'll see protecting the streets as we have closures for parties and possible street work and things like that. All positive reactions to that with no issues. There were a couple of sinkholes that were addressed in the police department's parking lot. Those patches were completed, and the Lexipol upgrade is ongoing and continuing, and probably will continue over the next couple months. The next police committee will meet on September 19th at 6 p.m. And next week, we will have our monthly finance committee on August 22nd at 4:30. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Dole, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, I do. On August 10th, we had a ribbon cutting at Rodham, which is located off of Southwest Parkway. They have several locations all throughout the Midwest, but they moved their headquarters here to Harrison, so we wish them the best of luck in the coming years. On August 10th, we also had a district meeting at the 611 Gathering Place. There was a finance report, and then we discussed upcoming events. The Fall Food Truck Rally is our next event for the district. It will be on September 9th down in the district. We also have our German visitors from Meckesheim in town that week, and then the Porsche Club will have a bunch of Porsches on display in the upper blocks of the district. So you can see all of that at the same time. If anyone's interested in sponsoring that food truck rally, you can reach out to myself or Annette Trosher, as they're still looking for sponsors. September 23rd is going to be Ladies' Night on the Avenue, and then October 28th is Halloween on the Avenue. We also discussed some board of director changes for the district. So Jerry Lynn Jobe will be stepping down as president at the end of the year. She's going to be greatly missed. She's done a great job organizing everything and putting on all of the events. But she's going to be stepping down, and then that spot has not yet been filled. But we'll keep you updated as it gets filled. And then on a similar note, it seems to be the trend of the night with what Caitlin said as well, but due to some personal changes, I'm going to be moving to Indiana by the end of the year. So that in turn means that I'm going to be resigning my seat on council, and that's effective October 1st. The Republican Central Committee will be filling that seat for the duration of my term, and then I'll know more about the replacement in the coming meetings. Other than that, we have a tree board meeting next Tuesday, the 22nd at 7 p.m., and our next IT meeting is September 5th at 5:15 p.m. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Maines, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do, just a brief one. And this one is just on some activities that have been going on with the Recreation Committee. Recreation Commission had a car show this past Saturday, August the 12th, and we had, I believe, 47 cars registered for the car show. The rain did affect the car show a bit. We had a good 20-minute rainstorm kind of early in the day, and we think that kept some people away. But overall, it was a great success. The Hot Wheels racetrack that the library allowed us to use was great fun and good activity for the kids. And the food trucks that were and food was down there was well attended, and people enjoyed that, and as well as all the beautiful cars that were down there. And lots of the Corvair Club helped us with that, and they had several of their Corvairs down there, vans and sedans down there, and that was quite fun. And then the citywide yard sale, same Saturday as the district Fall Food Fest, is September the 9th. That's coming up. People need to mark their calendars and look to the website to get their fee paid and get their table reserved and get ready for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Samuels.
Yay.
Dole.
Yay.
Maines.
Yay.
Wilson. Egner.
Yay.
Grubbs.
Yeah.